Good evening once again, brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Welcome to Buddhist Fellowship's Part 2 of the Alagaddupama Sutta. Bhante Buddharakkita, the founder of Uganda Buddhist Center, will be giving us continuing the sutta with us today. Let's welcome Bhante to give us the sutta.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. My Dhamma brothers and sisters, today we are going to study and practice, not only sutta study, but sutta study and practice. The sutta which called the simile of the snake, Alagaddupama Sutta, sutta number 22 in Majjhima Nikaya. So last time we covered quite a bit, and I would like to continue with part 2, but I would like to recap from where we stopped, just to recap in 4 points. In the sutta, the simile of the snake, we see 4 points that are very clear. The first one is the setting of the sutta, which gives the background of the sutta with a monk called Arittha with pernicious views, not just simply wrong views, but actually very serious wrong views. Serious in a way that they pose 2 challenges. That's the first point. One challenge, that's the first point I'm recapping, is that it has a doctrinal challenge. That means it challenges the whole Buddha's teaching, where the Buddha talks about that he actually is the foremost, and he talks about the 4 intrepidities. This one was in a sutta, which is called, I'm going to recap for you. The sutta is called, Mahasihanada Sutta, which is called the Great Discourse on the rhino's roar. Here the Buddha talks about the 4 kinds of intrepidity, in other words, self-confidence. And I'm going to repeat those confidences. So the 3rd confidence is the case in point here, but I can recap other 4 so that you know, other 3. So one is, while you claim to be one who has, the first one is, while you claim to be fully enlightened, you are not fully enlightened about these things, right? So the Buddha is saying, I see no ground on which any recluse, Brahma or God or Mara or Brahma or anyone else in the world could, in accordance to the Dhamma, accuse me that while you claim to be fully enlightened, you are not fully enlightened. Again, there is a second one is, I'm just continuing to avoid repeating myself because the sutta repeats itself a lot. So I'll just read the second intrepidity, self-confidence. While you claim to be one who has destroyed the tents, you have not destroyed these tents, right? And the third one, that's the case in point in the simile of the snake, is those things called obstruction by you are not able to obstruct one who engages in them, in other words, sensual pleasures, right? And the fourth is when you teach the Dhamma to someone, it does not lead him, when he practices it, to complete destruction of suffering. So you can see a monk like that to possess such a view challenges the whole entire Buddha's teaching, because the entire Buddha's teaching, when you look at it, not only obstructions, he taught obstructions, but he talks about that the Dhamma leads to destruction of suffering. This leads to the end of suffering. the whole teaching on the Four Noble Truth, suffering, cause of suffering, cessation of this suffering, and of course, the path that leads to the end of suffering, the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. The entire Buddha's teaching, you can be summarized in those Four Noble Truths. That's a pillar. But here the monk is challenging. It's challenging that, okay, these things cannot obstruct you. In other words, mental defilements, they are not obstructions. In this case, is the sensual pleasures, sensual desires are not obstructions. So this is what I would, and also Bhikkhu Buddhi would call challenge to the Buddha's teaching. So I name it doctrinal challenge. The second challenge is more of a disciplinary challenge, the rule of monks. The bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, we have rules, 227 for bhikkhus and 331 for bhikkhunis. One of the rules is not to engage in essential pleasures. One of the, even the more serious one, is sexual misconduct. He ceases to be a monastic. So, and here this monk, who seemed to know a little bit of Dhamma, but not trained in Vinaya with this discipline, he's challenging the Buddha's Vinaya, the Buddha's teaching on Vinaya, that, well, the people, they are able to engage in these pleasures, essential pleasures, and they can attain the first level of enlightenment, which is stream entrance, and then they can even attain the second level of enlightenment, which is called one's returner, where they just attenuate, reduce greed and ill will. So still, people who are householders, they can reach this level of attainment, and here monks, they are restricted from doing so. So he's challenging these two things, the doctrine and the discipline. So now also, we talked about the two similes, one the simile of the snake. That one, we saw that it's really teaching us the wrong and right way of grasping the Dhamma. Right way is to grasp by the head. The snake, you grasp by the head, it doesn't bite you. The Dhamma doesn't bite you, in other words, literally, when you hold it properly, not for arguing, not for fame or whatever, but for destruction, ending suffering, but not for arguing and winning debates and all that. So proper grasping means you properly understand it, right? Then that simile also talks about how people wrongly handle the snake by handling the tail, and then the snake will turn and bite the person who's holding it. So the same thing, the Dhamma can start biting you if you wrongly hold it. I've seen myself doing my traveling around the places where people believe they're Buddhist, and then you can see how they handle the Dhamma, the Buddha's teaching. One such teaching that is commonly understood is the teaching on anatta, non-self, the teaching on karma, the teaching even on suffering. People say, well, suffering, no, there's no suffering. There's a happiness, And also Buddha teaching, it's just a way of life. It's really amazing that the very people who are staying in Buddhist countries, who are born Buddhist, they downplay their teaching. Buddha, the Dhamma, Buddha, what the Buddha taught is not a religion. It's just psychology. It's just science. It's just way of life. Well, Buddha's teaching covers all those aspects, but not just. It's more than a way of life. It's more than science. It's more than psychology. It's more than philosophy, So I've seen myself when I'm in some Buddhist countries, people themselves who are born Buddhist, the whole teaching of the Buddha, they reduce it to, Buddhism is just a way of life. Then I ask myself, what will other people who are not Buddhist, who are not born Buddhist, who just come to Buddhism for the first time, What message do they get? So it's just actually, I've seen it myself, people handling the Dhamma in the wrong way, you know. Buddha, what he taught is the Dhamma is the truth, not just about life. So definitely we can see that Simile talks about wrong and right way of handling the Dhamma. But people could actually mistake it. So the Buddha went ahead and gave another simile, the right punch, actually, because the simile of the snake can be easily misunderstood, right? So the Buddha talks about the simile of the raft. So in the simile of the raft is really actually right grasping. The right grasping is non-grasping. Really, that's where it leads us. The right way to grasp the Dhamma is not grasp it at all. So now that's what we saw, but let's continue on. So now today we are going to continue on paragraph number 35. Sorry. Let me see. That was the sutta, Mahasanada Sutta. Let us go to Simile of the Snake. Okay, paragraph number 15, page 227, 29. So in this paragraph, the Buddha seemed to be taking us on another trip, you know, a short excursion into something else, getting away slightly a little bit from what he was talking before. Now he's talking about different nuances of views, different views, standpoints of views, standpoints for views actually. So we're going to read, because there are 6 standpoints for views. What are 6? The Buddha now start enumerating them. Here, bhikkhus, an untaught ordinary person who has no regard for nobodies and is skilled and is unskilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who have no regard for the true men and the unskilled and undisciplined in their Dhamma, regards material form. Material form, that's the body. She regards this as, this is mine, this is I am, this is myself. So now it regards feelings in the same way. In the same way. I'm not going to repeat myself. In the same way that feeling is mine, myself, and all these things. Now, when we pause a little bit, let's pause on perception maybe. He regards perception, thus this is mine, this I am, this myself. He regards mental formation, this is mine, this is I am, this is myself. Now, let's pause a little bit. One has to really read these things very carefully and pause a little bit what the Buddha is really talking about. Body, which is material form. If somebody regard this is mine, this is I am, this is myself. So why is the Buddha talking about that this is unskilled, untaught? We all know that the body is ours. Who doesn't know that the body is mine? The Buddharakkita body is mine. All right. And Brother Richard, you have your body. You know, your glasses. This glass is mine. And Brother Jerry took me somewhere in Singapore and bought my glasses. It's not Sister Eileen glasses. There's no doubt about it. What is it really Buddha is talking about? This robe, this robe is mine. Styling, I'm sorry, this is not your robe. This is mine. You know, so that's why Dhamma language is very, very, very deep. You know, we have to be very slowly. We have to be slow and secure in studying it. For me, I just look at discourses and look at other discourses also the Buddha is teaching about similar teaching. There's one level of communication that we need to communicate. And the Buddha talks about this kind of convention way of looking, or relative truth, but ultimate truth also, right? Is what we call ultimate reality. So on a relative level, yes, this body is mine. This definitely, on relatively speaking. Otherwise, Sister Eileen will say, oh, Bhante, come to Singapore and bring your arms ball and bring your. And I said, no, Sister Eileen, the arms ball is not mine, So I end up at the airport. Oh, Sister Eileen said, oh, where is your luggage? I left it in Uganda, it's not mine. so that's not good. That's not very good. Okay, I'm in Singapore and I have been going through medical treatment. Then the people get me, they come to pick me up from the apartment we are staying, Sister Rui's apartment. Bhante, come for medical checkup. You seem to be have some problem with your liver enzymes and all. No, I'm not going to go to the hospital. Why? My liver is not mine. The liver is not mine, it's not myself, it's not I am. So please leave me alone. So I think that would be very confusing to people who are very generous, who want to take me to the hospital, and I tell them, hey, here's a sutta which is talking about that the body. So on a relative level, we have to speak and communicate in an easy way to make things intelligible. And in many ways, we need to take care of the body. On a relative level, it's our body, is not even my mother's body. Though I came from there, from my mother. Yeah, so, but I have a different body from my mother, So basically, we need to know that what the Buddha is talking about is in ultimate sense. In the ultimate sense, the body is not, it's not mine, not myself, not I am. It's just a body. It's just a process, It's just a process. So what makes it mine, myself, and all these things is where the trouble comes, whereby we cling on to it. It's my body. We cling, we hold on to it, and then we actually have what called wrong view, and even conceit, actually. So this not mine, not myself, not I am, is very, very good to practice it. These are not words that you say, okay, the body is not mine, not I, not myself. No, this should be coming from understanding and practice and from wisdom, actually, to come to that conclusion. Yes. So this is not just observation, from an observation point of view that, okay, the body I'm observing is not mine and myself. No, it should be evaluation, critical analysis, analyzing exactly and find out, okay, the body is not mine. If it was mine, I would tell the body, don't grow old, actually. Don't grow sick. Don't be sick. I will tell my feeling to be pleasant all the time. But we can't do that. All the time they're disappointing us. From pleasant, they go to unpleasant, to go to, yeah. Perception always disappoints us, It loses our grasp, So this is what we call in a comment, please. With this, when you have this, if you just believe that this is mine, then this is what we call craving. And this I am, that's conceit, mana. The other one being tanha, which this is mine is tanha, actually. And now this is I am, that's mana. Mana means measuring. The Pali word mana, measuring this superior, inferior, and same. Yeah, this kind of measuring, And then this is myself, this is what we call wrong views, ditthi, right? Yeah, this is called ditthi. So when you read it like this, you know that the behind this mind, this I am, this myself, there are three mental states that we are cultivating, and that's what we want to get rid of in our practice, right? That's very, very important. The Buddha is not talking about a language in a relative sense here, right? He's talking about an ultimate analysis. This is not ours, right? It's not mine. So we paused a little bit and let we continue on. He regards what is seen, heard, sensed, cognized, encountered, sought, mentally pondered. Thus, this is mine. This is I am. This is myself. This discourse poses some challenges. If you look at the way Buddha talks about this paragraph and others, it goes a little bit out of line, a little bit, because we see here the Buddha talking about the 5 aggregates, but he doesn't mention consciousness, right? He doesn't mention consciousness. Where is consciousness? There's a missing link here. Right? There's a missing link here because we see there he's talking about form. He said that it regards the form. This is mine, this is myself. This I am, this is myself. He regards feeling. That's the second aggregate. He regards perception. That's the third aggregate. He regards mental formations, right? Why didn't the Buddha say he regards consciousness, all right? He regards consciousness as this is mine, this is I am, this is myself. Do you have some idea? He would have made it easier for us. He just continued on because it's very, very systematic. The Buddha is very systematic. Here we see consciousness disappearing. There's no consciousness. The Buddha is not talking about consciousness. But when you look at it, normally, I don't know if you know the Bahia Sutta, where the Buddha gave instruction to Bahia. There also he uses this teaching that really summarizes the 6 sense bases, but in a very summarized form. He talks about in what is seen, in whatever is seen, there is there's only the seen. In whatever is hearing, there's only the heard. In whatever is sensed, there's only the sensing, there's only the sensed. In the cognizing, there's only the cognized. So now he's talking about 4 things there, but actually when you look at them are the 6, because when the Buddha is talking about what is sensed, now in a sensed, it actually includes the eye, it includes the ear, the nose. Those 3 things are included. And then when you talk about what's cognized, it includes actually the mind. So now in Bahia, though it talks about 4, seeing, hearing, sensing, and cognizing, actually it's talking about 6. So I want to tell you that sometimes the Buddha freezes things. And I know why he freezes things, maybe because sometimes it will be understood. It's like when you are traveling from BF and you tell somebody to go to Geelong, you don't tell them, okay, now you go downstairs and then get your kind of parking lot and go out of the gate and then no. You skip things because it's already understood. Yeah, you don't tell them, when you are in the Dhamma hall in BF, you go through the office, go down the stairs and then turn left and then get the car. It's understood. Anybody who has been at BF knows the basic principle, So you just tell them if you want to go to Geelong, maybe you start from Sentosa and then you continue on. It seems to be the Buddha also taught that way. Sometimes he would skip some other teachings that maybe when he has taught to people, they understood. So he will freeze them. Right? So now, it seems that here, he's talking about the 6 kind of consciousness, right? There are 6 kind of consciousness. 1, here is saying he regards what is seen. What's that consciousness? That's called eye consciousness. What is heard? That's what's called ear consciousness. What is sensed? I told you about Bahia Sutta. What is sensed? It includes 3 things: nose, tongue, and what? Yes. So now, That was what is the body. The body is what is to be sensed, okay? Those three things are right there, but the Buddha is not talking about them. And the cognize includes what call the mind, right? So how many consciousness there? Six already. So that's what makes this the aggregate, the five aggregate, which is called consciousness. So now, when you look at cognize, he continue on what's to be encountered, sought, and mentally pondered. That means all of them actually belongs to cognized. Right? If you are mentally pondering, that's more mind consciousness, isn't it? Yeah, that's more mind consciousness. So I think this is very, very important to pause and analyze what the Buddha was really trying to tell people. So it seemed to have expanded more of consciousness because it seems that people use so much of their mind to think about things and even think that the consciousness is permanent. Yeah, so I think he had to analyze it fully to break it apart. He didn't break feelings, though we have 108 feelings, I think. You could break also the feelings. Yes. So, but actually for the consciousness, because most of the views come from the mind, so I think that's how actually he's breaking it apart, because you can see Arittha is also maybe mentally pondering, you know, let's say, is sought mentally pondering. It seemed to be that the problem with Arittha was from mental pondering, and they grasp the Dhamma improperly because his mental attitudes, right? The views and all that. So I think this is very important to note. So let's continue. This is mine. This is I am. This is myself, right? And this standpoint for views, namely, what that which is the self is the world. Okay, these are wrong views again. Another stand of view where you think that the self is the same as the world, or different. So this is coming from, I don't know if you read about what they call 10 unanswered questions, right? Where the world is finite, infinite, or both, whether the Tathagata existed after death or not, and whether the self and the body is the same or different. So similar questions come up, but here they mention about having that view that the self and the world is the same thing, you know. That's another standpoint of view. And it's very troubling because most of the people back then, they still believe like that. And in many ways, they believe like this, especially when you look at the 6th century BC, when the Buddha was coming to the scene. Most people thought like that. And up now, they're thinking like this. They're thinking about Atma. Atma as a soul is here in this self. Everybody has that soul. And now the world, the whole Brahma world, you know, the whole Brahma is there. So now they think that, okay, one time, in one's life, when we pass away, then the Atma joined the Mahabrahma, right? So there's that kind of universal spirit, universal consciousness, universal soul, that all the souls individually, they belong there. So they go back home. In other words, once you have finished your work, moksha, something to that effect, that people believe that the self is the world. That which is the self is the world. After death, I shall be permanent, everlasting, eternal, and not subject to change. Now, these 4 things are very, very important to remember, because that's what defines what we call the characteristics of what people believe as a self, right? As a soul. We call this soul theory. It is and it was still there, in Indian philosophical systems, whereby they took the self to be permanent, to be everlasting, to be eternal, and not subject to change. If you grasp this, then you'll not have a problem when we start teaching you about non-self. This is very, very important, because what the Buddha did exactly is to subject this belief to a strict analysis. Subject it to a strict analysis using the 5 aggregates, right? And it talks about, we're going to see it very soon, where the material form is permanent, everlasting, eternal, and non-subject to change. Of course, there's no, the body is not permanent. It's changing all the time. Actually, when Bhante started teaching in, a few minutes ago, now Bhante is different. The body has changed, you know. So, and it's not everlasting, it's not eternal, you know. So this is very, you need just to remember only those 4 things. Then you can really understand the teaching on what the Buddha was talking about anatta, because what is being talked about here is more of atta. They believe the atta is like that, is permanently permanent, everlasting, is simple, is core, there's a core into it, and eternal and non-subject to change, is blissful, and all this kind of thing. So we'll come back to it as we go to the sutta. We continue on. I shall endure as long as eternity. This is called eternistic views. This too he regards, this is mine, this is I am, this is myself. We continue on paragraph number 16. Bhikkhus, a well-taught noble disciple who has regards for the noble ones and skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, who has regard to the true men and skilled and disciplined in their Dhamma, regards material form. Quite the opposite of what we have discussed before. This is not mine, this is not I, this is not myself. So I'm not going to repeat this because it's quite the opposite of what we have already discussed. It's just negating the above points that we have discussed. I'll just continue towards the end and pick up from the end. And this standpoint for views, namely, that which is self is the world. After this, I shall be permanent, everlasting, eternal, non-subject to change. I shall endure as long as eternity. These two he regards that this is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself. Paragraph number 17. I think everything is clear from that point, because this is the positive, the negation of what we discussed before. So now, number 17, paragraph 17. Since he regards them thus, he is not agitated about what is not existent, right? So that's paragraph number 17. It opens up a lot of discussions, but let us just look at the note itself, because the Buddha, very big Buddha uses the word agitation, but actually that word agitation, as he explains, that it means 2 things. One is fear and craving. So he preferred the word agitation for some reasons. He preferred because it translated. But quickly we can look at what he's talking about in 260. I'm just referring to 60. 260, asati na parisati. The noun form paritasana, according to this one, Atakata, Majjhima Atakata, that's a commentary, has the twofold connotation of fear and craving. Thus, agitation was chosen as comprehending both. In other words, to capture both nuances, that means fear and craving. He preferred to use one word, but otherwise, it has 2 nuances, right? At the same time, fear and craving. Agitation about what is non-existence internally refers to the worldling despair over the loss and non-acquisitions of possessions. Let me pause a little bit about this. Why do you lose things and then you worry so much and really get agitated? For me, I remember before I became a monk, somebody had given me a gift. It was a watch. One time I came back, that was a long time ago in 1998, and I didn't find it. And one of my siblings had taken it, I later on found out. But it was very painful for me because it was a gift and I cherished it a lot. But when I went into my court and I could not find it, it was very, very disappointing. So now the question is, why is when you lose things, whether your umbrella or something you want, why you do get agitated? This is a very, very important question. Because here it says, agitation about what's non-existence external, in other words, your position refers to worldly, despair, worry, lamentation, fear, all this kind of, over the loss of, either you lose what you have had or not having something, you know, oh, I wish I have this and this. And then so now the question I'm posing, why would you lose something and you feel so painful? You have some idea? After all, these things are not yours, basically. And also, this is something, let's say somebody give you a clock, and it normally comes things you bought, somebody gave you, and then you use them for almost 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 1 month, and if you find them lost, you feel this agitation. The question is why? For me, this is what I discovered, and I want to share this with you. It seems to me that when you get objects that you like very much, you infuse a sense of self into them. You get identified with them. And once you get identified with those things because you crave for them and all these things, when they go, it's as if the whole sense of self is gone, basically. It's like taking away the whole Stephen or Sister Eileen. Not all of it, maybe a chunk of it is gone. Whether it's an umbrella, your mother's gift, and all these things. So once we infuse a sense of self into them so that they become us. So that when they go, it's as if the whole part of us is gone. So that's we cry and all this kind of thing. You know? So this is my discovery. You find out for yourself, why would you really agitate, really feel agitated, you know? Yeah, so we continue on. Agitation about what is non-existence internally to the eternalist despair when he misrepresents Buddha's teaching on Nibbana as a doctrine of annihilation. So these people think that when they read Buddha's teaching, they talk about cessation of suffering, they think that it's the cessation of the self. But the Buddha teaches about cessation of suffering, the cessation of mental defilements, right? It's not annihilation, but they will suffer because for them they hold these views that there's a self which is going to live for eternity. You know? And at the moment of death, they think they will be annihilated. And they think that the Buddha is teaching about annihilation. But the Buddha, as you know, Nibbana is not annihilation. You know? The Buddha was not so interested about no existence, that no existence. That's what the Buddha was trying to overcome, you know, was overcoming existence and no existence. The Buddha's teaching is about dependent origination, about dependent origination. So I think that's understood from the Bhikkhu's notes. And then we further elaborate what agitation is. And there are 4 positions already. There is what we call agitation. I summarize them myself here. I think it's very clear. Agitation and non-agitation. So there's what called agitation and no agitation pertaining to what we call eternally, and also externally. So non-existence seems to be universal in all those four positions, but what you have to remember is eternally or externally, and then agitation, no agitation, right? So you take it from there. So we continue on with the paragraph number 8. When this was said, a certain bhikkhu asked the Blessed One, Venerable Sir, can there be agitation about what's non-existence externally? This is very interesting. There can be, bhikkhu, that's the Blessed One saying, there can be. Here, bhikkhu, someone thinks thus, alas, I had it. Alas, I have it no longer. So this is about possession. Externally, it's about possession, right? I have, now I have no longer. Alas, may I have it? Alas, I do not get it, right? So as they say that there are two tragedies in life, right? There are two tragedies in life. Getting what you want and not getting what you want. Those are the two tragedies in life. Yeah. So now we continue. Then he sorrows, grieves, laments. He weeps, beating his breasts, and becomes distraught. That's how there is agitation about what's non-existence externally. All right. That's the first. I told you there are four positions. And then another question, paragraph number 19. Venerable Sir, can there be no agitation about what's non-existence externally? And that's the opposite of the other one. I think for the sake of completion, I can read it. Venerable Sir, now the Buddha is going to answer. There can be bhikkhu, the Blessed One once said. Here, bhikkhu, someone does not think thus. Alas, I had it. Alas, I have it no longer. Alas, may I have it? Alas, I do not get it. Then he does not sorrow, grieve, lament, and does not weep, beat. This is how there is no agitation about non-existence. It's very interesting. In other words, if you have nothing, you don't lose anything. I don't want anything, basically. You don't want anything. But of course, we have commodities. Even in monks, we have caves. We have our alms bowl. And then we get computers and we have our books. The key is not to hold on, not to crave for things, right? Yeah, so it's like holding things but not clinging on to them. This is what I mean, is like I'm holding things, right? If they go, if they come, it's okay. But holding on to them is like this, and then you suffer that resistance, right? So this is a very, very important explanation, actually, about the position, what we people think. So in other words, when you have positions, what are our standpoint of view, right? Do we get agitated or not agitated in our position? Depends on how we think, all right? So number 3, paragraph number 20. Venerable Sir, can there be agitation about non-existence internally? Now we are getting into the views, self-views. The other one was more of the possessions, but here now it's about the views about the self. Right? There can be bhikkhu, the Blessed One said, here bhikkhu, someone has the view, that which is self is the world. I told you these views, people have it. After death, I shall be permanent, everlasting, eternal, and not subject to change. So this is what we call eternal, eternalist view. I shall endure as long as eternity. In other words, they believe they will be there forever. He hears the Tathagata, that's how the Buddha addresses himself, or a disciple of the Tathagata, like monks, teaching the Dhamma for the elimination of all standpoints. The Dhamma is for the elimination of all views. All views. Standpoints. Okay, if the Dhamma is for the elimination of all standpoints, what about the Noble Eightfold Path, which starts with the right view? Are we going also to eliminate that one? Are we going to eliminate that? Because here the Buddha is talking about the Dhamma is for elimination of all standpoints. What about my standpoint of suffering? There is suffering. There is the cause of suffering. Should we eliminate that? So actually, let's continue on. Let's see. Okay, and for the elimination of standpoints, decision, obsessions, adherence, and underlying tendencies, for sting for formation, for relinquishment of all attachment, for the destruction of craving, for the dispassion, for the cessation, and for nibbana. So actually, right views are okay. Right views, okay. You know, standpoints, I think they are, it's about having wrong views, having a view, wrong views about things, you know. So having right view is okay. We should not eliminate our right view. We should start with it and it should continue on. We should not eliminate it. And this is because also understanding has some levels. Maybe we're beginning with the theoretical understanding of the Dhamma. Because the Buddha's teaching has three aspects. One is theory, practice, and realization, right? So in the theory, we may not be possessing the full-fledged right view, right? But as we practice and we realize it. So it's part of us. So you have what you call right understanding. In other words, standing under. Right understanding is standing under your views, the right views. Before you are standing on top of it, you have no experience. You've read the Dhamma. Okay, yes, there's the Four Noble Truths, yes. But you may not be possessing it. It may not be a reality for you, you know. It may not be a reality for you because you've not practiced it, you've not realized it, you know. Yeah. So in other words, once you have realized the right views, this is not something the Buddha is talking about. Eliminate that one, you know. Eliminate that one. It's like you've traveled from Uganda all the way to Singapore. You've traveled all the way, you're in Singapore, so okay, now forget about Singapore. You're already there, you know. You cannot, once you're in Singapore and then you are staying here and you already have the experience of Singapore. I cannot say, okay, now be as if you have never been in Singapore. No, you've been there. You know Sentosa Island, you know the airport. I can't say, okay, now, you just pretend or whatever. So you know Singapore. So realization of right view is not what the Buddha is talking, when he's talking about elimination of all standpoints. That's not a standpoint, having a right view. So this is very, very important to remember. It's something that you've realized. It's not something that you are still debating upon. Adherence and also underlying tendency. The Pali words anusaya, underlying tendency. That means defilements on their level, which is called anusaya level. In other words, waiting to be triggered and then it come up. Right? So these standpoints, decisions, obsessions. So these obsessions, these are called obsessions. This is mine, this is myself, this is I am. In Pali, the Pali word of this like tanha, deity, and mana, English we call those obsessions. So the teaching of the Dhamma is to eliminate those obsessions, right? And then adherences, again, that's part of adhering to views, you know, in a view you're adhering to, and underlying tendencies, fostering all formations, formations, and for the relinquishing of all attachment, right? Even attachment to the Dhamma, we should relinquish them. For the destruction of craving, It seems to be the Buddha's repeating the same thing in a different way, just in case you don't get it. Yes, it's like, in fact, that's what the Buddha did for all these 45 years. Just repeat it again. If you don't understand about craving, then he talks about underlying tendencies. If you don't understand underlying tendencies, he talks about obsessions. If you don't understand that, so he kept on giving you different ways of understanding until you get it. Until you get it, you know? For dispassion, the Pali word is called viraga. Viraga, V means not, and raga means craving. So another for not craving, and no, gluing. Raga means glue, like super guru, yeah? Gluing. Yeah? So dispassion, it seems to be a negative word, dispassion, but actually is a positive word, a very high attainment. When you have non-dispassion, that means you are not gluing to what? You are not gluing on to the 5 aggregates. Because the problem why we have all these problems in the world is our gluing to the 5 aggregates of clinging. We glue onto them. Right? So dispassion is viraga. For the cessation, for nirodha, nirodha, cessation, nirodha. Rodha there means, ni means not, rodha means confinement. Rodha means confinement. Confinement or prison. You can say prison. So now for the cessation is literally is to go out of the prison, to go out of confinement, right? That's what it would mean. For nibbana, of course, the whole Buddha's teaching is nibbana, blowing out of the flame, of tanha, craving for existence, craving for non-existence, craving for sensual pleasure. So for the blowing of those defilements, once you are blowing out of that for distinguishing those mental defilements, you attain nibbana. So we continue. He thinks thus, I shall be annihilated, so I shall perish, so I shall be no more. Then he sorrows, grieves, and laments. He weeps, beating his breast, and becomes distraught. This is how there is agitation about non-existence internally. So that's also very clear. Somebody has this annihilation view. He thinks that when the Buddha teach about nibbana and cessation, is about cessation of a self. But the Buddha is talking about the cessation of mental defilements. For the relinquishing of all attachment, for the cessation, for dispassion, for destruction. So it's about distracting mental defilement. It's not about whether there's no self, whether there's self. You see, so these people are so stuck in their ideas. Those who do this kind of this have a view. Number 21. Verbosa, can there be no agitation about what is non-existence internally? There can be, Buddha's answering, there can be, bhikkhu, the blessed one said. Here, bhikkhu, someone does not have this view. That means that does not have what to call eternalist view. That which is self is the world. I shall endure as long as eternity. He hears the Tathagata or a disciple of Tathagata teaching the Dhamma, that's the monastics or the lay people or the disciples of Tathagata teaching the Dhamma, for the elimination of all the standpoint of views, decisions, obsessions, adherences, and underlying tendencies, for the stealing of formations, all formations, then for the relinquishing of all attachments, right? For the destruction of craving, for dispassion, for the cessation, and for reaching, of course, Nibbana. So this is the pragmatic teaching of the Buddha. He taught for pragmatic reason, for practical reason, right? Practical, pragmatic, for actually overcoming something like suffering, for the cessation, for the removing all attachment. It's very practical. Don't about views, about self, about whether it's the same as the world or different. So these are, when you remember the teaching on unanswered questions, that's exactly, you know, that why the Buddha rejected um, these views for pragmatic reasons, because it's not practical, right? It's not practical. Self is the same as the body or different or same as the world and all this kind of thing. So anyway, we continue on. Here does, no. Okay. I'm continuing with paragraph 21. Here does, he does not think thus, so I shall be annihilated. So I shall be permanent. No, so I shall perish. So I shall be no more. Then he does not sorrow, grief, and lament. He does not weep, beating his breast, and become distraught. Thus now. This is how there is no agitation about non-existence internal. So this is like somebody who studied Dhamma, who meditates. He knows that, that he has started the teaching on non-self, anicca, dukkha, anatta, all this kind of thing. He doesn't have this problem. Think that, okay, he's going to perish after death. For me, here, when people ask me about Buddha's teaching, most of them are born again. They say, oh, you're born again. I tell them, yes, we Buddhists were born again and again and again and again. So, so they think their teaching is superior here, to mine here, because they don't know much of Buddhism. They say, okay, come again, come to our place and we teach you. We are called born again. I say, well, for already we are born again and again and again. So now we know for ourselves, people who are Buddhist, about the teaching on attain Nibbana. We work towards our Nibbana, so we can try this lifetime. If it doesn't work, we try another time. We try another time. We try another time. We keep on trying until we get it. So we don't believe that, oh, you know, after that I'll be done. No. Bhante, after he passes away, maybe he goes to Singapore. After that, Malaysia. After again and again until Bhante finishes his work, you know. Yeah, I'm not worried. Oh, I'll stop here in Uganda. No, I don't know. After death, I'll be no more. Oh, yeah, I'm struggling a lot to build Uganda Buddhist Center. This, no. Maybe next time, for the sake of explanation, maybe I put the temple here, and then after 30 years, I come back to Uganda. At that time, maybe I found it's expanded, you know. But I don't think I'll be kaput, you know. That's not what I think. I don't have that view. Yeah, so basically, of course, in the face of death, everybody suffers, those who are not yet enlightened. But people who believe that they will be that's the end of the life, I think they grieve a lot. There's a lot of grief because there's that sense of loss and there's no hope. Let's put it this way. Bhante knows that he has a round trip ticket. Wherever Bhante will go has a round trip ticket. At least now. Yeah, whether it's hell or heaven, there's a round trip ticket. But before Bhante thought, before I became a monk, I thought I have one-way ticket, right? One-way ticket to hell. So I'm done. So now, so I feel more relieved that, okay, yeah, I have another chance, in other words, you know, I have another chance. I give it another chance, you know. And this sutta, at least at the moment, is giving us 4 positions. I hope they're very clear. One is about positions, or somebody who possesses things external, of course, but why they grieve, because they are attached to them, and they say, oh, this is mine, or this like this. So it's about possession, the first standpoint of view. Another one is about the self. So let me see the time. So I think for today we'll end here, and next time we will talk about impermanence and non-self. And if we have understood these standpoints, of course, what we started, this is going to be easy. Paragraph number 22 is going to be very easy because it's talking about the 5 aggregates again. It talks about impermanence, anicca, anatta. So this is pretty much straightforward. So we are going to begin next time on this paragraph 22, impermanence and non-self. So at the moment, I offer this for your reflection. Let us end here. Yes.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Bhante.
Yes.
Anyone has any questions?
Thank you, Bhante, for the talk. Thank you for sharing your Dhamma knowledge with all of us. Okay, my question is like as lay people, right? We actually project a lot of ourselves into our work because we go to work every day. So if we don't get the promotion that we want, or even worse, if we get fired, then it's really quite discouraging. Or say if we have like children and they don't do well in schools, we also feel that, it's like part of our failures. So how do you like encourage us to, live our life such that we can learn how to let go and not cling onto these things?
Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, actually, this is work in progress. We take care. We do our part as the parents. Right? We do our part as parents because when we read the Buddha's teaching, we might say, oh, this is an unsurmountable problem. We are attached to our children. We want them to be successful and all this kind of thing. So what I want to remind you, as the Buddha's teaching, we have to start them in the context, contextual. When we read this teaching, is really geared towards getting rid of wrong views, right? All right. This, in ultimate sense, is talking about really people bound to attaining liberation, and that should be our goal, right? That should be our goal. But as anybody, as you say, lay people, actually all practitioners, though you've said all of the lay people, we have our children, we have to make sure that they achieve something. And I know the Chinese culture. Yes, so I'm more familiar about it also now. So now we have to look at also other teaching of the Buddha, and we look at what the Buddha taught the householder. Happiness, how to get happiness. We have to take care of our children. You have to read Mangala Sutta. And also the Buddha talks about how to achieve something. The Buddha says you must have desire to do. You must have effort, right? You must have chitta, thoughts. You have to have also wisdom, right? The Buddha gives teaching that we must have faith. We must have chaga, generosity. We must have teaching. We must keep the 5 precepts, right? We must keep the 5 precepts. So in other words, when we practice those teaching, we can reduce our attachments to what we possess, including children. And the children is also not ours. In many ways, the children are for the government. But don't tell them, okay, you are the government, you belong to the government, you belong to the world, you go. No. So you do your part as a parent to bring your children properly in the Dhamma, and they take what I call middle way. Not pushing too hard and not being reluctant. And I think that underscores the whole of Buddha's teaching, right? Not being reluctant means you just don't care. Okay, I give these children, it's their karma, they're citizens of Singapore, Singapore should take care of them, and all this. That's really not doing your job. Yet chemically you're connected, right? Not doing your job. So you you don't go to that extreme of not caring. And also, what extreme you shouldn't take also is actually to be so harsh when somebody cannot get straight A's, you know, and somebody cannot be the first one in class. I know. I was teaching in Australia, and the people had a breakdown. They come from Chinese background and India background. They got to Australia. They cannot, because of the condition there, that may be lacking a few things. They're not like Australian students, you know. So, and they're studying the courses like architect, doctor, word, very difficult. So I was going to teach there, and one Indian guy had a breakdown because he wanted to live up the standards of the parents. They paid a lot of money to take them in Australia, and they should achieve this. So in other words, for me, I would say, take care what you have to take care of, you know, and do your part, encourage, plant the seed. For me, I call planting seed, and that metaphor reminds me of 3 things that I can do when I plant the seed. My book is called Planting the Dhamma Seed. There are 3 things, and I know what I can do out of those 3 things. One is intention to do good. Intention to raise my children. Encourage them to do good. Not to be lazy. That's my intention. That's the first thing. That's one within my capacity. The same thing, you have intention to plant a seed. That's within your capacity to plant a seed, right? It's within your capability to go and plant the seed. The second kind of thing that I can do is to apply the effort, skillful effort to do so. I do what I can, the money I have to take my children to school, the resources I have, time to encourage them to do homework. That's within your effort. And then that's also, when you're planting a seed, you have the effort to take the seed and plant it, and then you have the effort to weed it, to remove the grass. You have the effort to stop other bad children to play with your children. You have effort to make sure that they got the best schools. That within your limit, there's no problem. There is a 1/3 thing that I'm talking about in the planting of the seeds. I think you should also remember it. You can take the seed to the plant and plant it, and you can have the effort to water it, but you cannot make the seed bring fruits. That has its own schedule. And if you want to lose all battles trying to get into that area of the results, you lose, because if you go there and start pulling the plant to grow longer like a mango tree, and you pull it so that it produces fruits on Monday, you're going to break it. And many times we break our children, you know. Yeah, even if we bring them to study Dhamma, you know, and then he said, no, must sit there and meditate, you know. Okay, you can have intention to bring them to Dhamma school. You can have the effort to make sure that they enroll. You can encourage them to sit, but how the Dhamma is going to unfold, it's up to them, right? So in other words, those 3 factors, take care of the first and the second one, and see how the fruits comes out. The fruits is beyond your control. But the problem we have, parents, we have to also, we manipulate the results. We want to make sure that somebody, of course, do the good works like chickens. Chickens, they do the intention and they have the effort to sit on the eggs. But when it comes to hatching, is the chicks that hit the shell. Not the mother hen poking the eggs to make sure that they open. I think we poke a lot. We keep on poking our children and they crack their head to make sure that they go to Harvard, they go to, no, do your work. Get them to good high schools. Make sure they do their homework. I think that's my input.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you very much for the answer. Thank you.
Yes.
Maybe I ask one more. My question is like, at which level of meditation that we do, like how deep it is before we can see non-self?
Oh, at what level of meditation?
Yeah.
Oh, anytime. Anytime is tea time. Anytime is tea time. So You see, of course, Buddha's teaching has 3 levels. One is theory. We should have a theoretical understanding of the teaching on non-self, right? And this is what I've taught. I'm even going to teach about. Next time I'm going to start with this teaching. Yes, we should start there on a theoretical level. We should practice it. That's why I declared from today, what I'm teaching is called Sutta Study and Practice. Because if I'm going to say Sutta Study, oh, Bhante from Uganda is going to do Sutta Study, people will not practice. Yes, so now as you are listening, that's one level of understanding. So you go and practice it. So that's the second level. And then the third level is realization, right? So if you talk about at what point we should realize, then I would say, okay, once we attain the first level of enlightenment. Yeah, but when you say at what level we should start practicing, I could say now you started practicing because I told you this is called Sutta Study and Practice. As you listen, you contemplate and start practicing. How are you practicing? As I'm talking, you start become aware of impermanence. Impermanence. As I'm talking, my sound is impermanent. So once you understand impermanence, then it's unsatisfactory. And both unsatisfactoriness and unsatisfactoriness and impermanence leads you to non-self. Because we have seen that if there's a self, things will be permanent. Things will be eternal, right? So you can even start practicing there. Right there from hearing. Yeah, so that's why I say from now, in fact, when you send the email out to people, Zoom, don't put Sutta Study by Bhante Buddharakkita. No, should Sutta Study and Practice, because in a listening, also we can practice, and we have a moment to say, oh, Bhante has spoken about this, now it's rising and passing out. Because impermanence has three phases. One is rising, another one is passing away, another one both rising and passing out. Once you see that, you are breaking, you are starting practicing non-self, right? 3, because if you remember the people who are the concept of self, they're talking about that things are permanent. But you, from your experience, I think you see for yourself. I told you, you see for yourself, you know where we started? The first thing I talked about, it has risen and it has passed away. So you have practiced. You know, so you're going to see that the three when we talk about something impermanent, if you really know that, not just on a theoretical level, but in practical level, already you are practicing non-self. You may not realize it yet, but you have practiced it. So this is not about the teaching that you listen and then you wait for the retreat on Sunday and then you start about non-self. No, it's taking place all the time. All the time. Now you yourself, the perception you had before we started these 2 sections on agitation and standpoints for views. These 2 things you have started. Your perception is not the same. Maybe you have learned something. So where's your perception? It's gone. You've acquired a new perception. And even your body, since you started, new cells have come, old ones have gone. You've been sitting here, feelings have changed. So this is an ongoing process. That's why I say anytime is tea time. Yes, because you should practice all the time. Not unless you're fast asleep, but don't think, oh, I wait until Bhante or on Thursday or Wednesday when he's okay, he's going to lead meditation on non-self. No. Right now, in fact, as we are talking, you should practice the teaching on non-self because we saw the 4 characteristics of the concept of a self: permanence, eternal, everlasting, and not subject to control. So sounds is changing all the time. You know, and all this kind of thing. Thank you for asking. Any other question? Any other question? Is that clear?
Yes.
Any time is no self time. Any time is tea time. Any time is
existing time.
Non-self time.
Non-self time.
And don't say no self time. No, non-self, because that's a two different things. Don't say the Buddha was teaching no self. It's non-self, N-O-N.
Okay.
Because the Buddha was not interested to teach annihilation, because the 5 aggregates actually are there. The composition, what we call the body-mind process, are non-self and non-self, because they are just the processes, you know. That's the biggest problem people have. They say, oh, you know, if there's no self, who's listening the Dhamma now, you know? Avoid the word N-O.
Yes. Thank you, Bhante.
Welcome. Any question? You have about 15 minutes.
I think no more questions. Before we end the session, Bhante, maybe share the merits with all sentient beings, and then maybe request some blessings.
Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Kasatta Devamata Devanaga Mahidiga Punyatam Anumodita Chiramalaka Duloka Sasana Kasatta Devamata Devanaga Mahidiga Punyatam Anumodita Chiramalaka Tudesana Akasatta Devamata Devanaga Mahidiga Punyatam Anumodita Chiramalaka Tumapara Etavata Jakami Sampadam punya sampadam sabbe deva anmodantu sabbe buddha anmodantu sabbe satta anmodantu sabba santam sabba sabbati siddhiya ida me nyattina hotu sukita hotu nyatayo ida me nyattina hotu sukita hotu nyatayo ida me nyattina hotu sukita hotu nyatayo. That's sharing the blessing. I mean the marriage. For with all devas, all beings, may our relatives may be happy, may be peaceful. So now I'm doing the blessing for your well-being. Sabitio vachantu sabarogo vinasatu mate vawantantarayo skidiga iko baba avivadana sirisa nicha buddha pajaino chattaro dhamma vantante ayuano sukambala vatsabba vangara rakkantu sabadevata Sabba Buddha Nubhavena Sada Soti Vavantute Lord Sabba Mangarara Kantu Sabba Devata Sabba Dhamma Nubhavena Sada Soti Vavantute Lord Sabba Mangarara Kantu Sabba Devata Sabba Sanganu Bhavena Sada Soti Bhavantute. May you be well, happy and peaceful. May you be free from suffering and discord.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Bhante.
Yes.
Next week, we will have part 3. Do
Yes.
join us, brothers and sisters. We will have part 3 of the Alagaddupama Sutta. So we will see you all next week. Thanks again, Bhante.
You're welcome. Yeah, so may you be well, happy and peaceful. See you next week. We go closer to the end of the sutta. Yeah, so this is going to be a wonderful experience on the practice of nature dukkha anatta.